So what exactly is the Board IQ model? This was a model that was derived out of my conversations with CIOs, CDOs, and CTOs across the globe. And this was basically, it covers two aspects. One is the 7 facets of the CIO, CDO, CTO role, and how it really plays with technologies. And it's all encompassing in terms of the technologies that are mentioned here. But for the purpose of this session, we would be touching upon 3 broad categories as we go along the process. The third aspect of your role that I'd like to talk about is DevOps, or Ops Dev, as AT&T Business would like to call it. It's really kind of making it a continual practice to have developers operating directly with the operations team, observing fast-paced flows in real time, and then deploying highly effective enhancements and fixes. And what typically happened is, because of the resourcing requirements, whether it was upwards or downwards, how much of it that needed to be hired, how much of it needed to be outsourced, the CIO, CDO, CTO roles had full ownership of DevOps in terms of hiring and firing. So which are the locations that made sense? Where are the skills residing? The whole restructuring plan. So really kind of taking ownership of resources was the norm. And the second aspect is in terms of imagine, build, and run. So really, if you look at the role, it is responsible for having high-performing DevOps teams in place with the right technology. And with the advent of new technologies that have come into play, think about design thinking, lean startup. So as companies started pivoting their new North Stars or the new strategic goals, the dev teams and the ops teams had to really juggle and move around, really become very agile in terms of their workflows, processes, and dev cycles. And so really in terms of having this whole ownership of imagine, build, and run became the norm. Again, let's look at an example of the humanization of business, building the emotional connect with the workforce, workplace, and marketplace. So which is a company that comes to mind in this scenario? So let's look at what Salesforce was able to do with Paladina Health. Now, Paladina Health is a company that really kind of is a Colorado-based healthcare company which provides primary care solutions and on-site clinics for more than 140 employers, including labor unions, school districts, and government agencies. So when the pandemic struck, their value proposition and the dev cycle and the production cycle had to shrink from what used to typically take 6 months to 2 weeks, 6 months to 12 months to only about 2 weeks. So can you imagine the condensation of the cycle really kind of shrunk to about 2 weeks? So if you were to look at the learnings from their partnership with Salesforce and how they were able to make it effective, the first and foremost is to have all systems in one place. Very often, organizations have disparate systems that don't talk to one another. And it was imperative that for Paladina Health to really have a focus on integrating all of the systems in one place, whether it's HR, finance, IT, and in terms of enterprise level software, hardware. How do they talk to each other and are congruent in terms of the overall value proposition and frictionless experience from an end consumer standpoint? So that became extremely important for them. And time to market, as I have highlighted, when it shrunk to 2 weeks, the software dev tools, which would normally take an iterative cycle of 6 months to 1 year, the teams were forced to look at alternate methods, for example, using zero-code solutions or low-code solutions to really look at the app dev cycles. So that, again, became a norm. The third aspect that was extremely important for them is to get the entire ecosystem used to being virtual. So having an open mind in terms of building a culture pretty much from scratch in terms of acceptability that telemedicine is going to be the norm. That was a big effort on their side. The other highlight that I'd like to share here, it's all about nurturing your clients during these difficult times. So through training and awareness and building a confidence that the value proposition would still exist, except that it's in a different form, and continuously hearing feedback from your clients was extremely important to them. so that the dev and production cycles was iterative and incorporated feedback from the clients as to how to make the experience better. And from a Salesforce Marketing Cloud, who was the primary solution provider, the beauty of what they speak about is Salesforce ensured that they created a very strong relationship, not only with the immediate customer, that was Paladina Health, but they really kind of stood behind Paladina in terms of making sure that the customers' needs, the end consumers' needs, were also adequately met.